So what I'm going to talk about in my presentation is to focus on the circular economy, but on the built environment. So from a building point of view. Just quickly introducing Emirates Green Building Council. It is a non-for-profit NGO which promotes and educates on sustainability in the built environment in the United Arab Emirates. It was established in 2006 with the goal of advancing green building principles for protecting the environment and ensuring sustainability in the United Arab Emirates. Emirates Green Building Council is a member of the World Green Building Council, and we participate actively in the MENA regional network. Now, as many other sectors, the built environment utilizes resources in a non-sustainable way, if we could say. And that's for three main reasons. Firstly, our planet does not have infinite resources that we can use in constructing our buildings. More than 90% of all materials extracted and used are wasted. Between COP21 and COP26, the global economy consumed about 70% more raw materials than the Earth can replenish. So this is alarming, and we should, think seriously about this and take actions. Secondly, it is estimated that the built environment accounts for up to 40% of the total global emissions, and the emissions resulting from the way the buildings and materials are produced, used, and disposed of are causing unprecedented climate change and environmental damage. Finally, the building construction sector employs at least 7% of people worldwide. This ratio could vary from a country to country or region to region. And so we must address embedded injustice alongside embedded carbon emissions. Now, many of the speakers and panelists talked about the definition or what is meant by a circular economy. One definition by the World Economic Forum is it's an industrial system that restorative or regenerative by intention and design. Now, if we project this on the building or the built environment, so the definition of a circular building then becomes, a building that optimizes the use of resources whilst minimizing waste through its whole life cycle. If we look at this diagram, so it shows how we transform from a linear economy to a circular economy. When it comes to the built environment, we focus on few processes within the built environment. So we talk about the manufacturing stage, where we want to make use, for example, of local, alternative, and reused materials. Then we also consider the design stage, where during that we prioritize energy efficiency, make use of passive design strategies, prioritize renewable energy generation and utilization, facilitate water harvesting, and so on. Design also for ease of maintenance, disassembly, and deconstruction. We go to the third stage in the, if you say, the built environment life cycle, so the construction phase. Here, we want to make sure that low embedded carbon construction processes are utilized, such as modular construction, and higher performance standards are implemented around construction waste. Then the building now is ready and we are using the building. So we are now in the operational phase of the building. And there, buildings are well maintained, enabling longer life of assets and their parts. At the retrofit stage, all assets are retrofitted according to higher sustainability performance standards, and reuse is prioritized over demolition. At the end life of the stage, or the end life of the building, we prioritize full disassembly and deconstruction to allow for reuse of all building materials, products, and components. The building's design, operation, and deconstruction should maximize value over time by using few techniques or few, if you say, concepts. Firstly, is that durable products and services made of secondary, non-toxic, sustainably sourced or renewable, reusable, or recyclable materials. Secondly, space efficiency over time through shared occupancy, flexibility, and adaptability. And I saw one of the presentations, the speaker shared one of the success stories about, sharing occupancy or sharing offices, workspaces. Longevity, resilience, durability, easy maintenance, and repairability. We see in many cases nowadays that, you have different, let's say, products. Once they are damaged or, not working anymore, we just go and immediately replace them without trying to repair them. Then disassembly, reuse, or recycling of embedded material, components, and system. And finally, life cycle assessment, life cycle costing, and readily available digital information such as building material passports. Now, in order to do a proper job when it comes to the circular built environment, all actors from across the value chain should embrace the necessary actions to become circular ready. We have a number of stakeholders, including developers, manufacturers, designers, contractors, users, etc. They all have a role to play in enabling circular solutions at scale. So imagine, if one or more of the stakeholders are prepared, but the others are not, then again, the circle is not connected and it's disconnected. And then this is what we are currently facing, a lot of challenges. We see some developers or manufacturers or contractors who have taken steps already in towards the circular economy, but because the others are not ready, so they are facing, a lot of obstacles. Now I'll deep dive a little bit, not much, into again the circular economy, but look from building and construction materials use. So materials usage in the construction industry is set to increase exponentially over the coming decades. Yet, it is vital that the sector does not exceed the global carbon budget. And research demonstrated that circularity principles are not being utilized at scale in many of the primary materials markets. And this is globally. Some of the key concepts that we can use, again, in the circular economy or in the circular built environment, and to make now focusing on the materials part, includes building as material banks. Now, this concept, buildings are seen as places that store materials that can be reused, recycled, or upcycled for new products. So as if you have a bank where you are keeping your materials that you will use later on. The second concept is the responsible and healthy materials. Here, we encourage the use of environmentally responsible, healthy, low-carbon products ready for a circular economy. Third on the list, material cascading. And material cascading refers to maximizing resource effectiveness by reusing products to create the most economic value over multiple lifetimes. And finally, carbon dioxide or carbon storing materials. So we use materials to store carbon dioxide, including those used for buildings and construction, and of course, different number of ways. I'm not going to cover in my presentation for now. There are more concepts to building and construction materials use, but I'll keep this for the audience to read about more. Now, from that we covered the material part. Now we want to talk about the design and construction phases or processes. So again, there are few concepts that we can use. I'll mention three of them. Firstly, design for use. So, and sometimes called adaptive reuse also. This refers to the repurposing of an existing building or structure for a new purpose, avoiding the use of new building components and parts when more sustainable approaches are achievable. And this is a very important, and that's why we say design for reuse. If the building is not designed for that, it becomes a very difficult job to repurpose or reuse this building. The second way is to design for disassembly and deconstruction. So you're preparing your building for its end of life. It is very important at an early stage in the design process to design for the disassembly and deconstruction of the building in order to recover the residual value of the asset at its end of life stage. And finally, design out waste. So we want to minimize waste, and we do this by sustainable waste management, which closes the loop through the reuse and recycling of as much waste as possible, allowing it to re-enter the economy instead of being sent to a landfill. So we're really increasing the value of the materials or the waste instead of landfilling or disposing, but reusing this material as as a new component for a different project, a different building, or even a different application. Part of the circular built environment is to get inspired by the nature or from the nature. The built environment can gain inspiration from natural systems to implement circular economy solutions at scale. A regenerative model emulates natural systems, prioritizing both people and planet, and supports natural processes which allow nature to thrive. So, for example, nature uses only the quantity of matter necessary. Why don't we try and do the same? In many cases, and listening to many of our stakeholders, they say that many times there is over design, for example, to buildings or even systems within buildings, whether because of safety factors or for other reasons. But again, why do we go and overuse materials? So just again, learn from nature. Also, nature tends to use simple materials to promote decomposition at the end of life. So why not also consider that when selecting our building materials? And in nature, resources are used and reused over and over. And this is really the whole purpose of the circular economy, is really to use materials over and over and not just dispose by using it once. But we have to be prepared for that. Now, why is all that? Well, there is certainly value in the circular built environment, and it can and this value could cover three, I would say, main areas. So government, and for some examples of the values created is social value creation, reducing waste from construction and demolition. And in many places in the world, this is a burden or a challenge faced by governments. In many countries, they are trying to find solutions to get rid of the waste, demolition waste or construction waste. Also, build a sustainable supply chain for the future. Again, this is very important for governments who are trying to create, maintain, and thrive economies within countries, is to have a sustainable supply chain. And finally, reduce material extraction. We know in many places, extracting materials causes a lot of impacts on the environment and others. So it's key if that we are able to minimize the need for extracting new materials. The second who also benefit from circular economy or circular built environment is the business, which is very important and key in making it a success. So first of all, if we go with circular built environment, we are creating new markets for otherwise disposable products. And it's for me, it's very exciting, and to see that there are many now new companies who are specialized in collecting, segregating, and then either reproducing or recycling of different types of wastes. And by doing this, it's again becoming a valuable product rather than a waste that is disposed. Removal of hazardous substances, because this will be taken care in the design stage. So then the amount of hazardous substances, if not totally removed, but at least very much minimized. Control of costs, of course, and then effective management of risks and reputation, especially nowadays that everyone is really very, very critical about environmental performance and sustainability practices. Finally, the citizens, the people, ourselves, we could also benefit from that. How? By reduced cost over the whole life of the building, by improving health and well-being. This is very important. It's not just about businesses. It's not just about reducing carbon footprints, but also it's about improving health and well-being of people. and finally reducing pollution and hazardous materials. Now, World Green Building Council, which the Emirates Green Building Council is part of, worked on something called the Circular Built Environment Playbook, and this was really published very recently. And forces, from the World Green Building Councils and other international global green building councils with number of corporates and partners worked on this project and produced this playbook. And I would really encourage everyone who may be interested in reading this. It's available free online. I'm sharing here the link to the website. It has a lot of details and insights on many and more of what I have described in my presentation. It will be really very, very useful for those people who are interested in that area. With this, I come to end my presentation.